Need a presenter? Your Event Audio has you covered. Closed circuit audio equipment with turnkey operation at your trade show booth, live event, or private event. YourEventAudio.com is the place to go. DJ services, MC talent, and a whole lot more. Check out YourEventAudio.com today.
Well, it's time to start the month of May here from the Exhibitor Group and the EXHIBITOR Now Podcast. I'm Mike Morrison, National Sales Director for WS Display and co-host of the show. If you're watching our video version, you might see something a little different. Kim did not lose all her hair. She's now not David DuBois. And David, as many people know, and we joke around, is the president and CEO of the Exhibitor Group and, of course, the publisher of Exhibitor Magazine. And first of all, it's good to have you here this week. I hope your start of May is very positive and things are going well for you.
Thanks, Mike. And Kim passes along her best. She is on her way to Boise, Idaho to enjoy and celebrate and congratulate her son in graduation. So we gave her a couple days off, but she'll be back at it shortly.
Yeah, we've got, as we mentioned in last week's show, starting this month, we'll go and move to a platform of every other week, which will help us kind of digest our busy schedules. And our interview that we're going to have this week is going to even talk deeper about that, about how busy we are in the face-to-face world, trade shows, live events, experiential marketing, and the such. But we're going to talk about, as usual, our bullet points on the front end, and be interested to hear some of David's responses, because this week, when it comes to advocacy, we're always on top, especially two of us, on what's going on within our industry or either other industries that affect our industry of trade shows specifically. And this week, the U.S. Travel Association, which is, as I mentioned, a very important part of our industry from a standpoint of helping with advocacy in that area, sent everyone that I'm aware of and know of an urgent message to many people about an attempt from some senators to halt the use of facial recognition software, which helps TSA speed traffic through the security of domestic airports. Now, mind you, this use has been done on a voluntary basis, okay? It's not that every passenger goes through the airport has to go through facial recognition. The regular passenger lines, at least at Hartsfield-Jackson, where I live, will go through that traditional examination of ID and boarding pass inspection, but you're going to spend a lot of time there. Only Clear, to my knowledge, as well as digital ID from Delta, uses facial recognition methods, rather. So this one, David, is a bit of a reach, in my opinion. I'll turn it over to you and give me your thoughts on it.
Well, obviously, all of us who travel, and that's probably everybody listening in and or watching, want to be able to go through TSA on a well-facilitated, reasonable time period. And obviously, with all the different, Mike, opportunities at all the airports around the world, where you have Clear and digital ID, and you have TSA pre-check, you have all of that good stuff. We all want to move quickly through, because a lot of times, this never happens to you, it does to me, a lot of times we're running late and we just want to move along. So in my opinion, I have two thoughts here to share with everybody and get your feedback too, Mike. There are privacy issues. Some people feel like, what are they doing with this facial recognition? What are they doing with this content that they're gathering? Oh, by the way, when you scan your driver's license through, they could be taking a picture of that. They have all this information, especially if you're a pre-check. So there is the pro-cons privacy issue. It's understood that a lot of senators are probably getting, and congressmen and women in the House are probably getting pressure to try to, halt the use of this. But I would go right to the people in charge of these programs and say, okay, TSA executives and airport executives, is this happening? Is it speeding things up? Is it slowing things down, Mike? So what's your reaction to those thoughts?
I have nothing to hide.
Yeah.
So that's my first reaction is,
me too.
You're taking a picture of my face to make sure I'm not on a wanted list somewhere for doing something bad. And even though I'm a jerk to some people, I haven't broken the law. So I have really nothing to hide. And part of me thinks that the contention of people who are arguing this might not but might have a concern about something like that. Yes. I get it. Technology right now, we talk about AI, AR, VR, all the things that you can gather information and do bad things with. Unfortunately, David, we're in a world where bad things happen. You're not going to stop the bad guy. You ask me my opinion, and I don't want to get political, but my consensus is you're barking up a tree to stir up a pot that really doesn't need to be stirred up. These senators who are doing that. That's my initial reaction.
Well, I know we'll go to the next topical area, Mike, but I agree with you. At the end of the day, what has to happen, whether any senators put anything on the docket for discussion, there has to be public feedback on it. And like anything else in life, whether we are an R or a D, I happen to be an independent. I love a lot of my friends on both sides, as long as they're reasonable and factual and use data to make decisions instead of emotions. So I think we'll stop there because we have a couple more topics to talk about.
We do. We could take that one and run a while. We have our own show on that one. You're right.
Yeah, we could.
Let's move to another interesting topic within our industry as well as other industries, and that's the U.S. Labor Department's job openings and labor turnover survey that just came out. It was announced that job openings fell to the lowest in 3 years during March of 2024, while the rate at which Americans voluntarily left their jobs also dropped to a 4-year low. Available openings declined from 8.49 million from a revised 8.81 million in February. Is it safe to say, of course, there's still a ton of jobs out there, but let's cut to the chase. Is it safe to say that there might be some leveling happening in the marketplace, but overall, there's still a ton of jobs out there?
Well, as you said, if there's 8.5 million jobs out there just in the United States, the best guesstimate we have, Mike, for the business events exhibition industry is about 700,000 job openings coming out of the pandemic. And even a year, maybe 15 months ago, it was over 1 million. So we are absorbing and hiring more people. And I know that's a real positive thing because, as you've told me, your company, you yourself have to hire 3 more people because you're just exploding with business at WS. And we know that we're not a membership organization at Exhibitor Group, but we know that the absolute focus on workforce development by great organizations in our industry, EDPA, the venue managers, the Service Contractors Association, ESCA, IAEE, and UFI, and supported by the Exhibitor Group, we're all focused on how do we get more high school ladies and gentlemen, college ladies and gentlemen interested in our industry. And I know that conversation that just took place that we'll enjoy with Amy Calvert from the Events Industry Council is really going to touch on that as well. But at the end of the day, we need more dedicated people because I'll give you an example. My son-in-law worked for Freeman here in Dallas, where I live. Loved it for 3 years. He worked 5-6 shows a month. And then the pandemic hit, and he loved working for that company, whether it's Freeman, GES, Shepherd, any of the great general service contractors, and he happened to work for Freeman in Dallas. He decided that he wanted more of a normal kind of 40-hour week. They have a little boy named Parker now who's 2 years old, and he's got his own home business. Those are the kind of quality of life decisions, but it is getting better. It is leveling. And at the end of the day, there's still a lot of wonderful jobs out there. My father said, David, you want to run my dry cleaning business? I said, no, Dad. So I went to the hotel world, and I've been blessed to have a 45-year career in hotels, business events, convention bureaus, associations, and now Exhibitor Group. And you know what? I'm an example of somebody who was a lousy student that did pretty good. And we've, you too, Mike. So I'll stop there because at the end of the day, yes, we're leveling off, but there's still great opportunities for career growth in our industry.
Quick question before we go to this last bullet point is, do you remember pre-pandemic when you were always looking for the person that was the perfect fit for the job? And now, unfortunately, you're looking for somebody with the perfect pulse that can do the job. Okay, I'm trying to be funny, but it is serious. So you're right. You mentioned that I'm elevating in my within my organization and trying to find 3 people to replace what I've done for 9 years at WS.
And
It's a
Mike, 50
challenge.
for the research is indicating still 50% of the ladies and gentlemen in the exhibition industry, whether you're a exhibit house, whether you're a technology company, whether you're an agency, whether you're a convention center, convention bureau, hotel companies. We had a wonderful exhibitor live in Nashville at the Gaylord. The lady who was our convention service manager had been there 14 months. She came from the front desk of the hotel. She was fabulous, but her learning curve, and our own Stephanie Gibbs, who director of events, that's her first big show. She killed it.
Yep.
The learning curves are there. The opportunities are there. 50% of the people on both the service side and the events management side, show organizers, stand builders, are new, Mike, in the last 2 years. So we got a lot of opportunities.
Tons of opportunity.
Yes, sir.
Let's finish with this one. I found this interesting in walking through social media lately, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all of the culprits. I'm seeing a good deal of expansion. New people are being hired. They're being sought after. And we are even, go back to the point about I'm looking for regional sales managers myself. But the economics during this time, this is just the anomaly to me. Let me cut to the chase. Economics during this time are extremely challenging. The Fed held rates this week, so they're not cutting as we thought they would or possibly would. The cost of travel is horrendous at best. But expansion is still continuing. And it just doesn't line up. I mean, you sit there and you look and you go, how are we doing this? And you would think there might be some cutbacks happening right now, but inflation is still kind of at a question. It's just an interesting anomaly is the best word I can use right now. Maybe your thoughts on this could help clear my mind.
Well, the inflation number, Mike, that came out the other day, I believe it was 2.5, 2.6.
Right.
And certainly the Fed wants to get it maybe unrealistically to 2, but they've got to be altruistic and work towards that. And yes, we will hopefully see. And I know Chairman Power did mention, I read this morning that I think he likes to tease the stock market and said, maybe we'll do something in July. But my point is that we're almost in many cases at or exceeding 2019 levels. We don't have enough staff, so we're constantly all of the people in the ecosystem that support what we do, Mike, in exhibition and business events are looking for great staff, as you said earlier. Inflation continues to be challenging. We have to pass those costs along. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is exhibitors, companies like yourself, you're an exhibitor to many shows, including Exhibitor Live, thank you. Exhibitors have to prove ROI through good measurement to your owners. Your owner, when you go to Exhibitor Live, needs to say, Mike, within 3 months, I want to report on how many leads you had and how many you closed and what's that revenue. Same with Dell or HP or any major company that goes to a consumer electronics show or broadcaster's show or an auto show. What's the ROI? So even though we're at an expansion enhancement, the pressure is on show organizers and all of us as vendors and the exhibitor group as educators for our certification program. We have to be able to prove return on investment through good measurement. So the pressure's on all of us, whether you're a supplier, whether you're a show organizer, Mike, whether you're your company a component of how stands are built, efficiently and cost effectively. We have to do a better job, and we are doing that. And that will never ever end. And I'll stop because we can go on for 12 more minutes.
It could.
We don't have that kind of time.
I'm just thinking, please don't give my CEO another reason to ask me for another report. I'm so busy right now. I'm so slammed. It's just an anomaly.
Kind of short, but not really short answer, Mike.
It is. It's complicated. What's not complicated, by the way, is the EIC, the Events Industry Council. So we're going to take a quick time out and come back, and we're going to have a candid discussion with the CEO, Amy Calvert. If you've never met her, She's got a lot of information that you'll want to listen to. We'll do that right after this.
Attention, trade show and event marketing professionals. Are you ready to take your face-to-face marketing expertise to the next level? Join more than 3,000 candidates currently enrolled in Exhibitor Group's Certified Trade Show Marketer Program. CTSM is corporate America's top source of the industry's best trade show and corporate event training. CTSM certified trade show marketers enjoy expanded career opportunities, greater respect and authority in their organizations, and earn higher salaries than their acronym-free peers. Learn more, earn more. Visit ctsm.com today.
Welcome back to the Exhibitor Now podcast for this Friday, May the 3rd. Got a great discussion lined up today with Amy Calvert, who is the CEO of the EIC, and to handle that discussion and all the heavy lifting that's involved. And look forward to this discussion will be David DuBois. David, take it over.
Thank you, Mike, and welcome, Amy, to Exhibitor Now. Amy and I have had the pleasure of knowing each other a few minutes. I don't remember
talk
the
about
year.
all that on this show.
No, we're not
everybody.
to reveal. We don't reveal numbers. But I was a past chairman of the Convention Liaison Council when it was transforming to EIC many years ago before Amy took over. So, Amy, tell me how long
I took over.
Exactly. Tell me how long you've been the CEO, and give our listeners and viewers an idea of what EIC is, how many members you have, how many people it represents globally.
I would love to do that, but first let me thank you both, David DuBois and Mike Morrison, for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to spend some time with you. I have been with EIC. I'm getting ready to celebrate my 5th anniversary. My first day on the job 5 years ago was at IMEX Frankfurt. I landed and started in this role, hit the show floor, and that was that. So, I love you were talking before we went live about transformation and some of the things that are happening here now in our industry. And, EIC is actually celebrating its 75th anniversary this year, 75 years ago. The trade associations that were responsible for having the foresight to think about, how the industry would benefit from a united voice, this idea of a global federation to support the business events industry is pretty inspiring. We shared this with our board at our retreat in January, and it was quite a moment, of reflection, and then a lot of enthusiasm for the role that we can play and the value we can deliver to the industry in light of all the great work that we're doing. So. Yeah, I mean, the reality is, we say we serve the industry. The Events Industry Council is an organization that is comprised now of over 60 members. So traditionally, David, when you were in your tenure as one of the leaders of the organization and the foundation, EIC had traditionally just association members. We've had, over the years, anywhere from 30 to 35. We decided and reflected on some of the things that we learned coming out of the pandemic, and we recognized that we would be much better served as an organization, as an industry, if we had more diversity of thought and voices that represented the entire ecosystem. So we opened up our membership to what we're calling corporate members, but that, those individual organizations range from global destinations to, major hotel companies. OVG, who is now a strategic partner of ours, is a member. So we're really excited about, the way in which we think we can continue to do this good work at a much higher level. And now that we have, this more diverse and larger membership base. And we're really focused on the things that we've always done, which is, this incredible research that helps inform a really important advocacy conversation that's happening, globally and regionally and even at the local levels. The work that we do with Oxford Economics and then, of course, the work that we're doing to evolve the professional standards and really thinking about how do we lean into that role to support our workforce, not only to help the level of professionalism and offer those as a framework for collaboration between the supply side and the demand side, but then also ensure the relevancy of those standards, on a global level going forward. And the big conversations now are around how do we all have this vision. We've talked a lot about the things we've learned and the things we want to do and the things that we know are important, but how do we really serve as a catalyst for change so people really have the ambition, the tools, the resources to take action? So that's a big focus right now.
Well, thank you for that overview. So 60 plus organizational members, companies and associations. That's fantastic. It's double. Once I got out of your way, it was nothing but growth ahead. That's pretty cool. How many, ladies and gentlemen, and take a guess at how many, ladies and gentlemen, your organization's good work touches, and how many countries?
Well,
Best guess.
best guess, it's over a couple 100,000, I think, in terms of our
Right.
members, right? We're a B2B organization, but again, I always say, and when I talk to people about this, the work that we do, the resources that we build, the whole rationale behind our membership is that we serve the entire ecosystem. So even if you're not a member or a partner or an employee or a team member of one of our member organizations, you have access to all this incredible thought leadership, knowledge, resources that are available. So yeah, I mean, and then we and particularly as part of our research, we look at all global regions. The latest economic significance study has data on 50 countries, and we're very, very committed to that. We're very committed to, anytime we take a journey, whether it's to do new research or to really look at, one of our products and services, the standards themselves, we really are making a very intentional outreach to all the key global regions to make sure that they resonate, that they're relevant, that there's no bias, involved in any of those, or any type of restrictions that might impede, an entity for being able to leverage it at the maximum level.
Well, thank you. And, obviously, for those listening in and watching, are very focused on the exhibition industry, but it's such a hybrid world we live in today that, everyone who attends meetings at UFI or IAEE or our exhibitor live, as Amy knows, because she attends those, they're business event professionals. So, I mean,
Sure.
you have categories of engagement in EIC's work that deal with incentives and cruise lines and airlines and hotel companies and transportation. So obviously what Mr. Morrison and I focus on is certainly the exhibitor side of the what I call the four-legged stool of the exhibition industry. So give us a sense of the latest numbers. I'm going to say off the top of your head, but you probably have them memorized and stamped. What's the latest economic significance studies say about the overall economic impact of the global exhibitions and business events industry, Amy?
Yeah, so thanks for asking that question. Well, I just have to say to you too that my heart is always with the exhibitor community and the trade show business. Growing up in the industry, hotels and DMOs have always sort of really loved and felt like this was an incredible story that needs to be told. And I remember, you guys probably remember this, but remember when Greg Oates did that piece for Skift where he talked about trade shows and exhibitions as urban accelerators. Do you remember that piece? I still think about that and how inspirational that was, because at that time I was in a role working for a destination where we were trying to convince people of the value of reinvesting in our infrastructure. And we, would scratch our heads saying, these people, these politicians, these influencers come by, drive by, and it doesn't really matter where the venue is, right? This happens globally. And how often do they not connect the dots to what happens inside of those venues, what happens at those trade shows, right? To drive future investment and so on and so forth. So I could go on a tangent on this. So yes.
Well, you are a Kool-Aid drinker.
I am a Kool-Aid drinker. I'm I'm total junkie when it comes to this kind of stuff. So I love it. But anyway, yes. So the economic significance study, we focused on what was the high watermark in 2019, right? So the numbers that I'm going to share with you are relative to performance for 2019. And really, we saw some pretty significant growth from when we did the study in 2017, almost 9%. But the total impact is almost 1.7 billion in total GDP, or 1.7 trillion in total GDP, right? So when you think about that in mass, that's the equivalent to like the 13th largest global economy. And it's pretty significant. And, I think when people hear those numbers, they're sort of astonished and they think, well, how could that be, right? And that's a hard number to get your mind around. But what I think is pretty cool too is, almost 28 million jobs at that point, in 2019, 1.6 billion participants. So when you think about business events, exhibitions, trade shows as a catalyst for change and drivers of future investment, and you think about 1.6 billion people attending events, it's really not hard to make the case that we do have the ability through those numbers, those individual people to truly be the catalyst we say we are. So that is a piece of work that continues to be important, and we really need to work to continue to refine that and make sure everybody has access to that. And one of the things that we're working on in partnership with a few other entities is building more of a robust toolkit that organizations like ECA can use to help inform their work, and the other piece that was important as part of this most recent economic significance study was the inclusion of what we're calling that catalytic impact. Now, oftentimes people refer to this as legacy impact, but this is where we try to get under the hood and really understand, in the absence of events, what happened to your organizations, your companies, your destinations, your venues. And we really got some really consistent input. And I think it's important now, based on the world that we're living in, that macro geopolitical economic environment, to recognize that events have an opportunity to really truly help organizations build, talent development, employee engagement, building culture, and the great connection of people that are working in remote environments to one another to help them get their work done. And so that's the piece of this most recent study that we're talking a lot about as well, really to help inform sort of a more purpose-driven conversation about all events and the role that they have to play.
Thank you for that. And I know that you work closely with the Center for Exhibition Industry Research, Nancy Drapeau and Kathy Breeden.
Yeah,
and I know
great
that's a
team.
critical part of making up these total numbers. When do you think that you use 2019 as the high watermark, and I think all of us listening in will understand what that means. When's the next kind of study go to market relative to even 2022 or 2023?
Yeah, so what we've been working with Oxford on and a few other resources is a tool called the EIC Global Barometer. And that is available to anybody that's interested in taking a look. That's on our website, and we share that with all of our members. But that's sort of an evolution of, our not wanting the data from a study like the one we did in 2019 to just sit on the shelf. So we used it as a benchmark to help us track our progression forward. So what you'll find in that barometer is a quarterly assessment of how we're doing in terms of the return, and mostly we're focused on occupancy and demand against 2019. So we have that available, and that's a fantastic resource, and that's looking at global performance. And we also will be sharing some regional fact sheets. And, the thought process is that likely in 2025, we'll start the next iteration of the economic significance study. And, looking then at likely 20, 21, and 22, and trying to come up with a benchmark. We all know what happened in those years. So it's likely that we're going to have some discussion around, well, where do we really want to start in terms of assessing performance?
So Amy, be self-serving and share your website for the listeners and viewers today. What's your website, please?
Eventscouncil.org.
That was easy. Eventscouncil.org. So let's kind of move to another topical area: certification and workforce development. Obviously, workforce development is a big challenge. There's the latest numbers I read that actually Mr. Morrison sent me last evening show that there's still about 8.5 million available jobs in the United States. And it's our estimate in the business events industry, there's about 700,000 job openings. So tell us about the certification programs that really help to position the ladies and gentlemen that serve our industry, whether it's the CTSM program, which is our program, or whether it's the CEM or the CMP, Certified Exhibition Manager, Certified Meeting Professional. Tell us how valuable that is to what you do at EIC and how many CMPs and what does CMP cover? Because I know you have an advanced program as well.
Yeah. So I think even before I dive into what is available in terms of ongoing professional development and pursuit of excellence and knowledge, I think one of the things I want to share with both of you is that we're really focused on, this role that we can play and inspiring people to think differently about what being part of our industry really means. And part of that is the advocacy conversation around, talking a little bit differently about the purpose of events and really leaning more into values and impact as opposed to just, what does it take to produce a successful trade show, conference, that type of thing. And so we're liaising with universities and the academic community. Our members are doing some really good work in this area as well, looking like governmental agencies in all regions to really help them understand how to talk differently and with our support, encourage people to think about our sector. And that also means thinking differently about, what are the core competencies that we need and kind of unpacking some legacy thinking around, what type of talent we need. In terms of how we perform in the ecosystem, and what we do there is, we're a bit of the hub, right? We offer the CMP credential, which is sort of the gold standard for event organizers in our industry. That right now they're over 13,000 globally, and you need about 3 to 5 years experience to sit for the CMP exam. What really you get when you become a CMP is you get obviously that designation, and it's a signal to, not only your organization, your leadership, but the entire industry that you aspire to really perform at the highest level and to collaborate at the highest level. And, what we're doing is we reinvest in our technology, and our accreditation program is really to help people begin their journey and then think about not only achieving their CMP, but then going on to do further learning and development through working with our members and partners on micro-credentialing and other certifications that are relevant to the things that they're very interested in. So as people are coming into our system, what we'll be doing in the next 6 to 12 months is offering them an opportunity to sort of do a self-assessment of their interests and then guide them on a learning journey. But we really believe that, and one of the reasons, again, going back to this idea of why we really believe deeply in this idea of membership and partnership, is that we'd like all of our industry to think about using those resources as their professional development tools and to be able to do that at an enterprise level. So whether it's the CMP or our Sustainable Event Certificate program that a lot of companies are using right now to help inspire their workforce, use that instead of developing your own so that there's a common language, a common framework, and you're offering your individual team members or your clients an opportunity then to become part of a really inspiring peer network. And a lot of our members are doing that. Merritt's is doing a great job. Freeman is doing a great job. GES, Marriott. I could go on and on and on. OVG is part of our new strategic partnership. Not only will they be certifying their convention centers, but we're going to be doing some education and training and development using our certificate program to work with their team members who are actually on site. So it's really amazing to me to see this happen, and it almost gives me the chills because this is one of the things we learned coming out of the pandemic, right? There's scarcity of resources, so let's leverage the things that we have available to us and ensure that we're offering those to help people feel valued and informed. And we can't forget about the role that we have to play there. There are so many, not only there are open jobs, but there are people that have only been in their jobs for a very short period of time. And I think we all have a role to play in helping them find their way.
So, Mike, we could go on for 2.5 hours with Amy, couldn't we? Amy, you're great. I know Mike has a closing question as
Mike,
we come to the session close with Miss Amy today. Mike?
It never friends. What's that?
That went fast, friends.
I know.
It did go fast. It never fails that when I ask this final question, it sometimes seems controversial. I'll go on the forefront and say it's not meant to be.
Okay.
But I am on your website, and I do see a COVID-19 tab, and I'm on the tab and I'm reading, and everything makes total sense, and it's very relative. But I do have a curiosity question from the seat where you sit and the organization you govern and the touches that you have with the industry as a whole. Where do you see COVID at this juncture of the comeback, for lack of better words? If you had to percentagize, I don't know if that's a word or not. If you had to break down in percentages, this side of the industry feels that we're 100% back, which we know we're not. There's 0% on the other side, the extreme. Somewhere in the middle, I think we all lie. What is your, that's a poor way to ask the question, but what is the overall mindset of the Events Council on EIC on COVID as a whole, as to what the industry feels like, where we're at right now, if that question makes sense?
That's a good question, Mike. So if you look at the data, what the data says is that, and I will refer to what we have available to us, and that is in the global barometer, and that is just occupancies. Like if you look at occupancies and demand, while there are areas that are still quite not there, by and large, those major centers for demand for business events have returned to those pre-pandemic levels in terms of just occupancy and demand. What we think we need to be talking about more, and what is really important, is what are the key measurements for success going forward, and should they be aligned to what we were calling success in 2019? And there's this whole process of sort of reevaluating and resetting in terms of, what does it mean to host a successful event, and sort of reframing that through a variety of different lenses. And I think it's important not to tie that to what we've always thought was the right thing, because what if the pandemic taught us anything, is that we were getting away with a lot that we were potentially sort of not paying close enough attention to and missing. And even when you talk about things like workforce, well, that was a big issue even before the pandemic, right? There were pockets of our community and our sectors that were really struggling with talent acquisition and retention. So, I think we're really saying, this is an opportunity to think differently, and really prioritize and connect at a deeper level, and really think very thoughtfully about value creation and how we deliver that to our stakeholders, and not make assumptions. And we're certainly not there yet. What I am seeing, and what inspires me, is that people are really now, because we have a little bit more stability, ready to move from talking about things to trying things and actioning things. And I would use the example of what some of our members are doing in the great partnership that we just announced with OVG as an example of that, and there are a lot of people that are saying, you know what, we really need to focus on this now, and we're going to start to take steps, and we might not, be proficient in all of the areas, but we've got to start somewhere.
It's a great answer, because it's still kind of out there, and everybody's going to the data generally and using that as their base. But from a supply side myself, and I have to make decisions based on the data you just shared. And we're expanding and we're growing. I'm being elevated within my company. I'm hiring 3 more people to handle what I did as a 1-person gig. And it's crazy right now to think, are we back? We see numbers where shows have exceeded 19 and before. It's a little crazy right now. And if there's such a word, it's crazy, right?
Well, you have, there is the strong evidence, again, that people are going to continuously crave and value these in-person experiences, right? This is human nature. This is who we are. At the heart of what we do, we say we foster human connections. And if we are the stewards of that experience, then we have to be asking ourselves some important questions about well, what does that mean? How are we doing that in a way that truly feels accessible? And are we holding ourselves accountable for our goals around climate and social justice and all those things? So, yeah, and I think that the consumer, the people that are coming to our events, they're going to be demanding that. That is the way they are all thinking, and we need to align with that. So, but not be immobilized, because we're not going to be able to do it all at once. So it's just important to take those first steps and build the
Amy,
ambition.
we're gonna have you back, because I had 5 or 6 other things to talk to you about, but we're gonna have to go to a
Let's
wrap.
chat. Let's go to a
Mike,
wrap,
you wanna close this segment as you opened it, please?
You know what? Amy Calvert is the CEO of Events Industry Council. It's eventscouncil.org. If you're in the industry,
right. That's good.
If you're not familiar with this, you need to go star that on your browser. There is a ton of information there that I plan to go and research myself, and you should as well. When we come back, we'll wrap this one up for May the 3rd after this.
Are you searching for trade show and event products and services? Find It on Exhibitor Exchange is your complete buyer's guide to trade show exhibiting and events, featuring the trade show industry's top exhibit and display providers. Find It on Exhibitor Exchange is the industry's best shopping and commerce resource for buyers and sellers of exhibit and event products and services. Reaching 20,000 exhibit and event buyers in every print issue of Exhibitor magazine, and 140,000 exhibit and event buyers online each year. Search the listings or list your company today. Learn more at exhibitoronline.com/findit.
Welcome back to the Exhibitor Now podcast. David, man, what a great discussion with Amy Calvert. She has a ton of information. Her organization has a tremendous worldwide impact on the events all over the world, and domestically, of course. She's based out of the D.C., Baltimore area, which is interesting because we're going to be there just in a few weeks for Legislative Action Day.
Yes, we are. I believe it's May 30th. Tommy Goodwin's put together a great program, and I believe, Mike, he's about a person or two away from selling out, isn't he?
He's sold out.
Great.
I did get that information earlier this week. They are sold out. They have a waiting list. So you can jump on that by reaching out to ECA and Tommy Goodwin, as you mentioned, the executive vice president. And, right now, that's an interesting point. Some of us tend to wait because we're looking at our schedules and trying to figure out, can I fit this in? Can I work in some business trips, whatever, and this time it's going to catch you off guard because they sold out pretty quickly.
Well, I've had the pleasure of when I worked for IAEE, we started 11 or 12 years ago with Legislative Action Day, and I'm so proud to be Exhibitor Group as a sponsor. As you know, Mike, Mark Johnson and I and Emily Olson, our editor of the magazine, will be there. We'll be doing an Exhibitor Now recordings from Capitol Hill. And it's really important for all of us to step up and be involved in advocacy, whether you can make DC or not. Now that it's sold out, you may not be able to, but we'll get you the date for next year. Get involved in your own state. I know you do in the state of Georgia, Mike, and I do in the state of Texas, where I live in Dallas. Get involved in promoting the positive workforce development, economic impact of our industry. It's critical, isn't it?
It really is. And I joke a lot with Tommy about, this guy doesn't need to be anywhere near the Hill just because, of maybe my boldness of asking questions that I probably shouldn't answer or ask rather. But it doesn't matter. If you're going, and as we mentioned in association and advocacy focused podcast that came out last week, you will have a guide, you'll have a script, you'll be mentored in how you move forward, and you'll have you'll get to eat in the commissary area of downstairs, and that's the best part to me, David. I love that part.
You can even take the little subway between the House and the Senate. That's pretty cool too.
Well, because I'm going to be doing the recordings. I'm sure everybody else can take advantage of that. But also, as you mentioned, we'll look forward to having these discussions, Emily and I and yourself, with the attendees and the participants for Legislative Action Day. Before we wrap things up, I know we've gone a little long here, but last week I did have opportunity Kim and I just focused on the exhibitor group. I mean, we spent some time about, you've had some recent meetings and strategizing sessions about how to move forward into 2024, 2025. I think it'd be interesting to get your perspective about how you feel about things, how they have moved to this point, and then how you're planning to move forward.
Well, I had the pleasure years ago of speaking, being a speaker and being part of the roundtable at Exhibitor Live when it was in Mandalay Bay in Vegas. Lee Knight, Randy Aker. And so I walked the show. I've seen it in its heyday. It was amazing. We're climbing the hill to get back there. We had a good, from what I understand, because I have only been on the job 7 months, it was a good show in Louisville. It was a much better show in Nashville. And guess what? In San Antonio in March of 2025, it'll get that much better. We're not Pollyanna. We're not promising the world. But we had a 20% increase in exhibitor engagement and 30% increase in quote unquote buyers. But as you know, Mike, on our trade show floor of 125 booths, you all do more selling, cross-selling to each other as exhibitors, as important as it is to talk to the corporate event marketing professionals and operations people that come through. So we just did a site visit in San Antonio last week. We're excited about what the staff have come back to. Our magazine continues to be award-winning with Emily Olson as editor at the helm. Our certification program, with all great respect and thank you to Dee Silfies, who took it from zero to wonderful. Monica Mahill's taking it to another level. We are very focused on taking all the products and programs, Mike, of the exhibitor group, and through feedback, we don't have members, we have engaged customers and friends are helping us to make it better. So we promise the future's looking good, and we look forward to seeing you, hopefully, those of you watching and hearing me today at our Education Week, the second week in July in the Fontainebleau, so you can go to our website and find out more about that. We just opened registration.
Crawl, walk, run. That's kind
Yes,
of
sir.
what I'm
Thank
hearing.
you.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm hearing at this point, and we're almost to that transition of run and sprint. I mean,
We're getting there.
That's good. That's definitely
But
where
as you know,
everybody wants to
Mike,
go.
you're a sales guy. I'm a sales guy at heart. We will not overpromise. We will deliver a better product and program for everything we do, one step at a time, and get back to the glory days. And we're getting really close. And we thank everybody for your support.
I'd like to thank David DuBois for taking time out of what I'm sure is an extremely busy schedule these days to pinch hit for Kim Gischler on the Exhibitor Now podcast. Had a lot of fun talking with Amy today, and we hope you'll check us out next week for the Exhibitor Now podcast.